Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 85 of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. My name's Andrew Marsh, and I'm autistic. My representation of autism is Asperger's syndrome, or under the new DSM-5 guidelines, type 1 autism. I don't like that. I'm going to use Asperger's syndrome in my webinar today. And I work with employers to help them better manage people like me in their business. How do I do that? Well, I used to be a geologist in the construction industry before I knew I had Asperger's, but I've always known I was different. So I've always had difficulty fitting in and getting on with people, those social interactions and unwritten rules of communication and people and groups. I didn't get that manual and I don't fully understand all of that. I'm getting better at it, but so I had trouble fitting in when I worked as a geologist in construction. Did that for 23 years till the credit crunch came and caused a change, shall we say. So I look back and I think, okay, well, let's suppose that I was going into that industry again, knowing I had Asperger's. How would I like my employer to help me do better, help me be at my best, help me be most productive, do good work, and try and fit in with the team? How would I do that? So I've set up my own 7 steps program on how to do exactly that, how to manage people with Asperger's syndrome in your business. And on my webinars every week, I cover a particular topic about Asperger's and fitting in and management and things of that nature, things that I think need to be shared to try and explain a bit more about certain aspects of things in a bit more detail. Today, we're going to cover a topic which is quite often overlooked. And if it's not overlooked, it can be done very badly. And this is one of the fundamental parts of any management. Doesn't matter whether your staff are autistic, neurodivergent in any way, any good management structure should have this thing, and they should do it well. And that is feedback. And feedback isn't just, that was rubbish, do better next time. You get the report slammed down on your desk and the boss walks away. That's not feedback. That's just bullying. Okay. Proper constructive feedback leaves both people, the employee and the manager, I prefer to use the term leader rather than manager, in a better position than they were when they started. Okay, now the aim of feedback is to go over what was done, obviously. And you should start by going off with what went well. So the employer says, I liked the way you handled that challenge and you solved that problem. I liked the way you reported on it. And start with things that they did well. Record them, report them, and make the employee feel that they've had some success with that particular aspect. And as you go down your list of things that were done well and then not so well, and maybe at the end there was actually 1 or 2 things that we didn't quite get right. Notice the terminology I used there. We didn't quite get right. Not you, not me, we. Because ultimately, when you're in a team structure, you are representing that team, you are representing that part of your business, and everyone falls in we. We need to do better as a team. We need to see how we can best manage people and so on. Rather than saying, you messed up with that report. Bad mark, bad report, going to write you up. You're on your last warning. That does nothing constructive. What you need to do when you get to those points that weren't done as well is you need to sit down with them and say, we didn't quite get that right. Can you explain how you went through your process to come to that conclusion or to come to that what you did in your on that project? Can you explain that to me? Because I want to understand. One of the fundamental principles of being a good leader is listening. So give the employee the opportunity to talk about, I did this, I did that, that's how we did that, and that's how it moved on. And you might find in there somewhere, there's a little nugget. There's a little thing that says, when the employee says, I tried to come and see you twice about it, but you were busy. So I took it upon myself to just make a decision and go with this option, with this way of doing it. Immediately, you should be saying, oh, why are you sure? I wasn't available. No, and he'll say, I tried you at this time on this date and this time on that day, but you weren't available. I even sent you an email, but I didn't get a response. Now we're talking something completely different from having something that the employee has done wrong, not done correctly, and those two can be different, to we have a communication problem. And you will find most times that an employee does something wrong or not how you anticipated, not what you expected, it actually comes down to miscommunication, poor communication, or no communication with your leader or other team members, which the leader is responsible for. So be very open, be very aware that when something hasn't gone well, you as the leader of that team might get something back that says you contributed to this not going well. That is when you say, I'm sorry, I was busy that week. Let's see if we can resolve that by if I'm not available, if I've got my door shut, or I say I can't do it at the moment, pin me down. Send me an email, or when you next see me walking around the office, come and say, I really need to speak to you about this. Because if we don't have this conversation, I could do something that might not be the right thing. I need guidance and direction from you, and I need to talk to you about what I think we should do, what the options are, but I need your input to say, yes, do that, no, do something else. If you're not available to do that and the thing fails, you've got to start looking in the mirror rather than saying, oh, it was Andrew again. He cocked up that project. Oh, goodness me. I was there all the time. No, you weren't. Make yourself available. However busy you are, make yourself available to your team. If you're not doing that, you're not being a leader. You're not leading your team. You're abandoning your team to just do something. And in 2 weeks' time, when you get the thing back, however that was manifest, you go, oh my God, that's not what I wanted. Well, you haven't made it clear what you wanted. I've tried to come and see you 3 times about this. I've sent you 2 emails. What more do you want me to do? My options are go with what I think is the right way to do it. To email you and you haven't responded. My other option is to go to your boss and say, you're not being cooperative, you're not being responsive to my requests for guidance on this project. So I've gone through your boss. You will not like that. If I go to your boss and you then get chewed out about it, you're going to come down hard on me. And I'll say, well, sorry, but you weren't available. You didn't make yourself available. You didn't allow the time for me to have a conversation with you that might have been a 5-minute conversation to guide me on where you wanted me to go in this project. So I had to use the best information I had to go with what I thought was the right solution or the favored solution. And that's how I progressed. The alternative is I go above you, which you won't like, or I stop. I send you an email, or I catch up with you next time I see you around the office, and I go, I've stopped work on that, and I'm working on something else because you're not around to give me direction. Think about that for a moment. I'm going to have a quick sip of water. And that comes down to communication. So feedback is really important because by and large, unless you have a very specific set of circumstances where you have an employee with a disciplinary record, they've been argumentative, they've been obviously been disruptive around the office, rather than someone who you're not managing properly. There's two things are different. Let's just suppose you have a difficult employee, and it is genuinely the employee who's being difficult. By and large, everyone who goes into work does not go there to fail, does not go there to screw things up, does not go there to embarrass you. They go there to do their work guided by you, by your leadership. So let's put those difficult situations with an employee, with all those situations just to the side for a minute, and everyone else is coming to work to succeed. And your job as a leader is to help them do that. You have to set it up properly, which is step 1 in my 7 steps program, the brief or clarity of instructions. Doesn't matter what you call it. It's sitting down for half an hour or an hour, going through what you want, what the person's responsibilities are, what you're expecting of them, giving them time to answer questions. Really important. And right at the end, step 7 of my 7 steps program is what we're talking about today: feedback. Constructive feedback will mean that when you have got a similar project next time, your employees know better what you're expecting of them. So they're more likely to get it right. Or if there are communication difficulties with you or another team member, you can have brought that up at the previous feedback and say, I really need to speak to you on this project and you weren't available. And so we had an impasse. I had to make a decision and you're not happy with what the outcome of that. So how do we resolve this to move forward so that the next project you give me, I understand better what you want and you are available. You are available to me when I need you. And I accept that that won't necessarily mean the minute I need you at that moment. You could be in a meeting, you might be out of the office, but there will come a time that you need to make sure that you are available so that all the people that need to speak to you about the projects have that access to you to do that. And if they send you an email and you ignore it, well, you're setting yourself up for a big failure when at some point down the line there is the crisis meeting when the boss, your boss, and your boss's boss get involved, and they're not interested in detail. They are not interested at all in the detail. They want to know why this failed. That embarrassed us. We had to put that to a client. We had to delay something to a client because it was wrong. Boss's boss is going to come down on boss. Boss is going to come down on you. You're going to go, oh, it was Andrew's fault because he didn't do that. Well, actually, even if it wasn't my fault, I tried to make confirmation and have a meeting with you about it, but you ignored me 3 times in the office. You said you were busy. I sent you 2 emails. What more do you want me to do? I tried to have a communication with you because I needed guidance and you weren't there. Have you got those emails? Yes, here they are. You're not there to embarrass your boss. You're there to explain the situation. Say, yes, these are the emails. This is the situation. I didn't get guidance. I didn't have that manager was not available to me to make the decisions to guide me on how they wanted. So I had to make a decision myself. It turns out, because we're all here, that was the wrong decision. But it was either do that or stop until I get guidance from my manager who's not been available. Okay, thank you. That's usually when the employee then gets told to go back to his desk and carry on with his work, and the boss and the boss's boss and the boss's boss's boss get the two of them chew out the manager because they're not making themselves available. They're not having communication. So feedback is really important that you set up to succeed next time. That's what you want from feedback. You want to acknowledge what was done well. Really important that you don't overlook that. Rather than say, yeah, there was this one problem that was wrong, and we're going to focus for this next half an hour on that one thing because you did it wrong. Never mind the other 9 things that you did well. We're not going to care about them. Don't care about them. That's your job. Just get them done right. I'm going to pin you about that one thing you got wrong. No, that's not how to do it. Say what went well. Say how well it was. Inform the people that were doing the work why you were happy about something. Because what that does is that sets them knowing that next time when we have something similar to do, boss was happy when I did this. Boss was happy and we got it right because we did that, that, and that. I understand that. I've learned that. That's gone in. Particularly with autistic people and people with Asperger's syndrome, we will remember those things. We like to do the same thing again and again. We're very much creatures of habit. We like to do things by rote. So if we have a similar project to what we did last month, I'm going to do it the same way that I did it before, unless you tell me that that didn't work. And the place to tell me that is at a feedback meeting. Say, yes, the first 3 things you did on that project were great. The fourth one wasn't. So next time we get a project, I want you to do the first 3 things similar or the same as you did before. But on the fourth one, we need to discuss how we're going to address that so that we can get it better next time. Remember, think of the words I just used, so that we can get it better next time. You're a team. You're a team leader. Help your team do their job. That's your job. A leader's job, no matter what title you have, leader's job is to help every single member of your team work in the best way so that they can be at the most efficient, productive, best. That does not mean one size fits all. Doesn't mean that. If you're a one size fits all manager, you're going to have conflict with your teams because there will be people there that can't work in that way. They could be neurodivergent. They could have Asperger syndrome. They need to be managed differently to get the best out of them. So if you're a square peg in a round hole kind of manager, not going to work. Not going to work. You have to listen to your team. You have to respond to your team, how they are giving information to you, because that's how they like to receive the information. So feedback is really important. Say what went well, praise them for doing that well. And then as you get to the bottom, down the bottom of the list, this thing didn't go well. Why didn't that go well? Talk to me about it. This is why I think it didn't go well, because of A, B, and C. These were the points that didn't go as well. Well, I tried to see you about point A 3 times and I sent you 2 emails. Come on. You have to make yourself available. Because next time you have a similar project, they're going to come stuck on the same point again until you tell them how you want them to do it. And if you're not making yourself available, you're going to have the same problem again and again and again, because you're not making yourself available to communicate with them. Now, it could be that you have done all the communication and they've still made a mistake. They've misunderstood what you've asked them to do. They've made a mistake and they've got something wrong. That's where you need to train them. That's where you need to explain very clearly what they did and why it wasn't right, and how you want it done so that it is done correctly. Together, manager and employee, together, we work together to fix that. You don't go slamming things down on desks saying, you're useless, you're terrible, you're rubbish. Because do you know what that does? That deflates the morale of everyone in the office, not just that one employee. If they hear you thumping and banging and screaming and shouting, it deflates everyone. It makes them think, well, what's the point? What's the point in putting in the effort if I'm going to get that on a Friday afternoon? The good people will leave first because they won't put up with it. They put up with it for so long, and then they go, do you know what? I don't need this attitude. I don't need this environment. This is not working for me. I can go somewhere else, maybe get a promotion en route, maybe get pay rise on the route, and they'll go somewhere else and they'll take their skill and their expertise and all that they've learned and they'll go somewhere else and use it and better themselves and work better for another employer that's going to support them. And what will that leave you with? Understaffed, overworked people who aren't motivated because you've demoralized them. There's only one way that can go, unless something significant changes, and that's downwards. You get into a downward spiral of antagonism, of hate, of stress, of people being belittled at work. People will be off work because they're too stressed. I can't cope with this. They're going to see their doctor, signing you off for 3 months. Right, send in a sick note to your work. I'm not coming back for 3 months. Doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the business. It certainly doesn't help the employee who's stressed out of their nut, who's got blood pressure problems. They're shaking when they wake up in the morning. They've got a headache that feels like they've got a stick of dynamite about to blow up in their head. And all of these high blood pressure issues and all sorts of things that go on when people are stressed. All comes back to communication. And part of that effective communication in a team structure, in the team where you have employees who are delivering something to you, is feedback. Proper, constructive feedback. It is important. It's as important as setting out at the start. Step 1, clarity of instructions and the brief. It's as important as that. Because if you don't have constructive feedback where the employees are given the opportunity to say why it didn't go so well, what difficulties they had, whether there was the communication with the boss, it's going to happen again next time and next time and next time and the time after that. So you have to iron these problems out when it happens. The way to do that is your feedback meeting. Because the aim of your feedback meeting is for the employee to go away and thinking, yes, I understand what my boss wants. He was happy with such and such. We need to work together. We need to work together to correct this problem at the last point on the work. That's okay. He's explained to me, my boss or she's explained to me how they want it done. I can go away and progress with that. If I've got difficulties with that, they've said that they will make themselves available so that we can have a conversation about it. Perfect. Thank you. Good. Move on. That's what constructive feedback is. Feedback is not the boss walking past you, whacking you around the head with the back of a report because this was crap. I've seen it. I've seen it. So it's not a myth that happens in television shows. I've seen it. I've seen nightmare bosses who can't manage their way out of a paper bag with an instruction manual, belittle and berate and degrade their team members, because they don't know how to do it either, and they can't manage themselves, let alone someone else. So it's really important that in your overall management structure for anything you do, you allow for constructive feedback. And you make sure that the employee knows when it's going to happen so that they can have their list of questions. I've got 4 or 5 points that I want to raise about this, that I want to go through with my boss when I sit down with them, so that the employee knows when it's done. We're going to set up a meeting in the meeting room with a cup of tea and some biscuits, and we're going to go through this project. Okay? Do it properly. Let your employee, when you have finished, go through their points. And they will say, this went well for me, this went well for me. This point I had difficulty with because you were uncommunicative, and I found that I couldn't get communication with you when I needed, so that delayed that part of the project. I need you to be more open to communication with me at certain points during the project so that you can guide me in the right way, so that we can work together to move the thing forward. That's what constructive feedback is. It's allowing the employee the opportunity to say what went well and what didn't from their point of view, just as yours. So it's not a one-way street. If you think feedback is just a one-way street where the boss can come in, batter people around the head with a report, say you're rubbish, don't do it again, get it done right next time, and then swan back out again. We're in the third decade of the 21st century. We don't do that anymore. We shouldn't have been doing that in the 80s, but we did. Some people did. Horror. So feedback, proper constructive feedback is something that the management should allow time for, allow for it to be done properly, allow for the employee to have their contribution so that together you can work out and iron out these problems so that the next time you have a project, they know where the problems were and they know how to deal with them, and they've got you on their side supporting them so that you are open to them for them to answer questions. Really important. So that is today's topic, constructive feedback. It's a biggie. It is a biggie because if you don't do any feedback, what happens? You get another project in that's similar to the one you did last year. Did it in February last year. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Carry on with that. Do it like we did last time, February last year. Remember that one? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, go and do that. My question to you is, hi, we worked on that project in February last year. Do you remember? Yeah, you did. Did anyone ask the end user whether what we gave them worked? Or did they have to make changes after we'd submitted our final report or our product or whatever it was, that service or product that you were providing to that client? Did they have to go and change it? Did they have to make changes? Did they realize that there was a problem and they had to make changes, make adjustments, or come back to you and say, this hasn't worked, what do we do about it? Because if you haven't done that about that project, you're going to make exactly the same mistakes again. So just because you did something previous that is similar to what you're doing now, make sure you've got the feedback from the end user of that last job to make sure that you understand what went right and what went wrong. That's where you need to get your feedback from your client, your end user, your customer. Because if they're telling you that point 0.6 in the recommendations that you gave us didn't work, well, you're going to look pretty silly if you're doing a similar project again a year later and you put the same point 0.6 in, and guess what? You've got the same problem. You're not learning. You have to learn. Learning is how clients will come back to you because you've learned from your experience rather than make the same mistake again. I've seen it. I've been told to do it. Oh, we had one of these jobs similar last time. Just do what we did then. And I said to my supervisor, did anyone check whether it worked last time? And he looked at me with a blank face as much as say, oh God, you're going to be trouble. No, I'm trying to prevent the same problems that may have occurred on that previous job from happening here by finding out whether it worked or not. Because if it didn't, then there's no point me doing exactly the same thing, is there? Some people don't like that questioning from their employees. They think you're undermining their authority, but actually what you're trying to do is help the company deliver a product or service to a customer or a client. Think about that. It can take 30 years to build a reputation for a business. It takes one project to ruin it. Never forget that. Never forget that. So if you have neurodivergent people, or you have someone or people in your teams who have Asperger's syndrome, and you want to know how to better manage them, what tips and strategies should you be employing to get the best from them, drop me a line. My name is Andrew Marsh. You can get me at aspergersmatters.com. There's a contact form on the website there that you can use to get in contact, or you can email me at andrew@aspergersmatters.com. I'll be delighted to hear from you. I offer a free 30-minute consultation to anyone wanting to speak to me about managing Asperger's syndrome in the work to see how I can help you, whether we're a good fit and whether there's merit in us pursuing it on a commercial basis. Keep a lookout on Thursday of this week, because this will be when today's video is posted on my YouTube channel. And if you are using my YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, and comment on my videos. Every video in my webinars is on my YouTube channel. So this is week number 85. So there's an introductory video and 85 more videos on the YouTube channel. There must be something there that's of relevance to you in how to manage Asperger's syndrome in the workplace. And then look out on Friday or Saturday of this week on LinkedIn as to what next week's topic will be. Not sure yet. I'll have a look, have a think in the next couple of days, and we will then get it posted on LinkedIn. And hopefully you can come and join me again. Or if you're watching on replay on YouTube, then please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, or get in touch if there's anything you want to know about managing Asperger's syndrome in the workplace. It's not expensive strategies. It's common sense, straightforward, easy to implement strategies that you can do with minimal cost, maximum effect. That's what I offer with my 7 Steps program and with any consultation I have to businesses to help them better manage Asperger's syndrome in the workplace. So please feel free to get in touch. Take care. See you next week.